This is the most heartwarming father I have ever seen. He imitated the tone of the German army and asked his son, "Is he a Jew?" The son answered with a relaxed face, "No." Then he slapped him hard. The son was struck dumb. Then he repeated the question. The boy also answered no. As a result, he was slapped again. The mother was also terrified, until the boy said very firmly, "I am not a Jew." Only then did the father hug him in pain. "I'd rather slap you hard now. I'd rather slap you now than have you die because of it." The family was Jewish. The father ran a barber shop to support his 4 brothers. It wasn't a rich life, but they were happy and prosperous. But one day the Germans suddenly entered the city. They ordered all Jews to have yellow hexagons embroidered on their chests. Must be embroidered with yellow hexagons. Some would be sent to labor camps. From this moment on, it was as if the whole world had ill will towards the Jews. In order to avoid further harm, Dad decided that the family to flee the city separately. The boy ran away with his brother. After all, no one would be suspicious of the children. Dad gave them another 20,000 francs. He told them not to tell anyone their Jewish identity. The 2 brothers left before dawn. Watching the boys leave, the father could only pray silently in his heart. The boy and his brother boarded the train. Soon they would know what they had to hide from. The Germans took over the train station. A large number of Jews are captured. The brothers prepare to flee, but the Germans were already in the carriages. They had nowhere to run. Just then a kindly priest motioned for the brothers to sit next to him, reminding them that the more afraid they acted, the more likely they would be found, and handed them each an apple to hide the fear. Under the cover of the priest, the brothers managed to evade the search. They got on the bus to the next location. They didn't know anything about the road they were taking. Luckily, they met a guide halfway, gave him a deposit of 2,000 francs. They agreed to take them out of the area at night. In their innocence, they didn't even consider that the other man might be a fraud. During the day, the brothers played and played in the village. This would be one of their few moments of childishness. In the evening they arrived on time at the appointed place, but they waited and waited for their guide. Instead, they waited for a patrol of German troops. This made the brothers desperate. Just when they were about to give up, the guide finally appeared and led them through the woods to safety in a broken hut. After a brief rest, the brothers set off again, but the uneven gravel road, the brothers' feet had blood blisters. The brother had no choice but to carry him on his back. The brother is carrying the brother to escape, but after walking for a while, he lost his strength. "Come down a bit, you are too heavy." Fortunately, a car passed by, the kind-hearted driver uncle, willing to take them for a ride, and so they soon reached the safety zone. The sun was shining and there was peace. There was no disturbance brought by the war. They found their brothers round. Mom and Dad also arrived shortly afterwards. The happy time of family reunion soon drove away the sadness of the war, but the good times did not last long. The Germans soon occupied the place. To avoid capture, Dad had to be ruthless, sending his son to the harvest camp. As he turned his back, this strong man couldn't help but choke back his sobs. If Jean didn't have no choice, who would want to separate their flesh and blood? Most of the children here are Jewish. It's a shelter in the name of the church. The brothers were trained here every day, but they always wanted to be reunited with their families, so they got in the car of the grocery boy. They sneaked out of the camp, and the Germans found them. The boy was knocked unconscious right away. By the time they came to their senses, all 3 of them were already under the control of the Germans. The German officers started to check their identities. In the face of the officers' questioning, the food delivery boy denied it, but he was tortured. He denied again, but in response he was only more brutal beatings. Finally his spirit broke down. Admitted his Jewish identity. The boy looked at the boy's desperate eyes, not knowing what was waiting for him. Soon it was the brothers' turn. Faced with the officers' questioning, they tried to remain calm, keeping in mind what their father had said. Never, under any circumstances, admit that they were Jews, but the officers were used to this kind of scene. The soldiers grabbed the brother and tortured him. When the boy saw this, he rushed forward. He punched and kicked the soldier. This made the officer laugh loudly. Then he interrogated the brother alone. He was told to go and get his identity card. If he didn't get it within 2 days, the brother would be sent to a concentration camp. The boy told his brother, "Tell him not to come back. It's better for one person to live than for 2 people to die." And how could the brother give up on him? After his brother was taken away, the boy became very sick. In his coma, he saw his mother captured by the Germans. Thanks to a doctor, he was saved. He took out a marble and put it in the boy's hand. He said that when he was unconscious, he had been holding this marble and told him never to give up hope. And the brother also succeeded in getting 2 certificates and the archbishop's guarantee. But the officer always thought the certificates were false. He also thought that the bishop was lying, so he sent the brothers to work in the vegetable garden, and there was already a trap set. The Jewish brothers are in a German barracks. The iron door is quietly opened at gunpoint. This was the perfect opportunity for them, a perfect opportunity to escape. Unbeknownst to them, the brothers' every move are being watched by the German officers upstairs. If they escape, they would be exposed as Jews. Even the bishop who had sponsored them would be implicated, as if by divine providence. Just as they were about to make their move, the white clouds were blown away by the wind. The sun shone behind the wall, the silhouette of a soldier. The 2 brothers were instantly alerted. It was a trap. They immediately abandoned their escape plan, and so the officer's ploy failed. The bishop wiped his sweat nervously. The two brothers were rescued from the barracks. Then they were put in a car. The car was arranged beforehand. Unexpectedly, Dad suddenly appeared in the back of the car. In a city in crisis, seeing the people closest to him, the two brothers who had just experienced life and death, their hearts calmed down again. They leaned on their father's shoulder. This is the safest harbor. And so the two brothers returned to the harvest camp again. They agreed that as soon as the war was over, they promised to return to Paris for a family reunion, but instead, they waited for the sad news about their father. Mom called. She said Dad was seriously ill. They told them to run away. The boy knew it was a signal. It meant that Dad had been captured by the Germans. They had to start running again. At night the boy looked at the moon and prayed that he and his brother would escape from the barracks. The mighty father would be able to do it. Then they came to a small town. The boy worked part-time at a bookstore, delivering newspapers to people every day, and his brother worked as a waiter in a hotel. This was a stronghold of the organization underneath. The boy would often use his job to help pass information. On this day, the militia raided the hotel. Members of the organization rushed to put it in the boy's bag. He was about to go out. He was stopped by the militia who rushed in. The militia told the boy to take out his pocket, but there was only one marble. This made him let his guard down. He thought he was just an ordinary kid. Let him out directly. And so the boy succeeded in getting the information out. It wasn't long before the Germans announced their surrender. The people who were suffering from the war, and the Jews who were hiding in the shadows, came out. They were singing in the streets, and the residents who had been anti-Jewish before were beaten in retaliation. Even the bookstore where the boy worked was not spared. In front of the excited crowd, the boy stood on the table and shouted, "They had helped to take in a Jew. That Jew is me. I am a Jew." The words that had been buried in his heart for so long, finally he could shout it out in the open. Hearing this, the rioting crowd stopped. Then the boy returned to Paris. He found his father's barber store. He saw his brother and mother, but the only thing he didn't see was his father, until he heard the exact news from his brother. The boy finally could not stop crying. He still remembered what his father had said. Whenever a good man dies, there will be a star that lights up to tell people to live with hope. This movie is based on a true story. The film is based on a true story of World War II. There are no images of war throughout the film, but it shows the cruelty of war. The brutality of the war is shown to the fullest extent. In those days of war, tens of millions of people were displaced. Countless families were destroyed. Countless martyrs and forefathers threw their heads in blood for the cause, in exchange for the rich life today. Although the war is over, but we should all remember the history. We must let all the villains know. Those who commit crimes against China will be punished from afar.